So I'm going to create the list that we created yesterday using tab stops. So yesterday we talked about, using tab stops for, creating a list of things or just getting things to line up the way you want them. So a lot of times what I see is something like this, right? So you're putting, like, especially on resumes, you're putting where you worked, then you tab a bunch of times over and you do something like this, right? Or something like that, right? And you get all these little tab stops in the middle. Now, if you didn't have your show hide turned on, you wouldn't see them. But the hard thing is getting things to line up when you're doing it that way, because everything is still aligned on the left, right? Not the ideal, because now if I come down here and I put, right, and then I put September 2015 to October. Now see how it's not lining up? So now I have to come back up here and backspace out a little bit to get all of this to fit. And then I'm kind of going like this with my space bar to get things to line up over here on the right side. Okay, if I didn't have the show hide turned on, it would look okay. But it really is not ideal to do it this way, because then you're trying to tab and then you're trying to space to fill in that gap where it's not aligning, and this is wrong. So I'm going to show you the right way to do it. So I would type in where I work, and then I would set my right tab stop. The difference between right aligning and a right tab stop is I haven't set my right tab stop yet. So everything is aligned on the left, starting to type on the left, from left to right. If I change my alignment to right alignment, watch what happens. And that's not really what I wanted. I wanted to keep Access Computer Training on the left side, but then when I'm going to go put the dates in that I worked there, I want only that to align on the right side. So that's where your tab stops come in. So now that I've typed this in, it's aligned on the left, it's good, it's where I want it. My cursor is kind of blinking at the end of my company name. Then I'm going to come over here to my tab stop indicator. Remember that? And that L, what looks like an L, it's not really an L, that's your left tab stop indicator. And as you kind of left click through the options, you see a bunch of different things here. So what you're seeing is, after the left tab stop, you have a center tab stop. Upside down T is what it looks like. The next one is a right tab stop. So it looks like a backwards L. The next one is an upside down T with a little dot next to it. That's your decimal tab. And so we aligned the profit share column, the dollar amounts. We aligned those by the decimal. And so what we did yesterday, and if you guys remember, we aligned all those dollar amounts up by the decimal. And so we placed a decimal tab for the profit share column. The next one is a bar tab, and that just puts the line. If you guys remember, we did the two choices of menus, choice 1 and choice 2, and then we put kind of like a line between. That was the bar tab. And then again, your indents, but I would say use them from here, because this one says supposed to be hanging, but that says first line, which is weird to me because the hanging one is this one. And then this one is supposed to be first line, and this one says hanging. So it's kind of backwards. It's kind of weird. Anyway, so whatever tab stop you want, you're going to come over here and you're going to set it so that you can see the tab stop you're wanting. So I want the right tab stop, and so I just changed this to the right tab stop over here. Now I'm going to come over here to my ruler. I'm not left clicking, I'm not dragging, I'm not doing anything. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set that right tab stop somewhere after the 6. I'm going to end up left clicking, holding, and dragging it and moving it on to this right indent marker, but I can't drop it on there to start with. So I have to kind of drop it a little bit before and then drag it on top. So all I got to do is bring my mouse kind of on that lower portion of the ruler just before it gets to the gray area, and just left click one time. And there it drops the right tab stop on the ruler. Now I'm going to go back over to it, hover the pointer of my mouse on top of it. When I see right tab pop up, I know I'm on it. And now I'm going to left click hold, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it on top of that right indent marker. So now I know I'm right at the margin. Now I can tap my tab key, and it overrides. So when you're setting tab stops, it overrides that ½ inch rule that I was telling you about. So every time you hit your tab key, it goes ½ inch, ½ inch, ½ inch, unless you set your tab stops and override that, which is what I just did. So that's why I didn't go tab, 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 tab. It went straight over to the end. I've got one tab mark. That's perfect. And now when I start typing, it's going to start from the right and go into the left. So now I'm going to say that I worked there from September of 2014 to October of 2019. Okay. And I don't have to worry about it wrapping down to the next line because the buck stops here. Think of this as a bookmark, or sorry, a bookend. And so it's not going to go past this. Where before, take it out, where before I was kind of guessing on where to start. And so I started doing this. And of course, I'm typing left to right because I'm left aligned right now. And so what's going to happen is eventually it's going to wrap down to the next line. And that's like, well, crap, now I need to fix it. I need to backspace that a little bit to get it to go backwards. Well, now I need to go back even further because I'm missing the year after October. Now it's offline. Now I got to tap my space bar to kind of space it over enough so that it aligns with the upper part, but that it's still not getting cut off. And it's still not really aligned, right? So it's not perfect. Doing it this way that I did with that top line, to be able to kind of set it and type away, like if this was even longer, it would just keep going back this way. And so this is the ideal way to set your tab stops. Now, when I enter, what happens is that tab stop stays there. So then I can type in the other jobs I've had, hit my tab key, type in, you know, the years, the months, whatever. And it's always going to align on the right side because I've got that right tab stop right there. Now, if I take this line and I take that tab stop and I move it, it's only going to move that line. Okay. If I select both of these lines together and then I go to move that tab stop, it'll take them both over. So it'll still be nice and aligned. It's not reaching as far as the margin, but I still have them both right aligned. And you can always left click hold and drag that back as long as they're both selected. So don't forget, whatever it is you want to format, you got to select it first. Okay. No different here with your tab stops. Okay. So a couple of different places to set your tab stops. My favorite place is what I just did, using it from the ruler. I'm going to take out this tab stop. So I'm going to hover over it until I see right tab pop up. I'm going to left click hold. I'm going to drag it down and let go. And that's how you remove a tab stop. So you can move a tab stop around the ruler. You can set it from the ruler. You can delete it from the ruler. But there is another place where you can do this. So if you were to go up to the Home tab, the paragraph group, remember your paragraph dialog box launcher. Click on that. And you come down here to the bottom left corner where it says tabs. And this is also where you can set your tab positions as well. The thing is, you don't always know the exact point on the ruler. Like, you know, what's the dot after 3? I don't know. Is that 3.15, 3.25? I don't know what it is, right? So a lot of times I like using the ruler because I just eye it out. I don't know what the tab position actually is on the ruler. Once you set it, you can come here and it'll tell you what your tab stops are set at. That's kind of cool. And it'll also tell you what alignment that tab stop is, whether it's a left tab, center tab, right tab, decimal tab, or bar tab. But remember we did the phone book thing, right, with the leader? This is where your leaders are too. So you can clear your tab stops from here. You can clear individual tab stops, you can clear them all, and you can set them from here too. I'm a fan of using the ruler, but sometimes if your hand is a little shaky, sometimes it's tricky grabbing those tab stops and moving them up and down the ruler, or trying to drag it down and off the ruler. So this sometimes is a better option for some people. So I'm going to cancel that, but that's where you go. You go to Home tab, Paragraph Group, Dialog Box Launcher, and go to the tabs. Now there is another way. So if I set a tab stop on the ruler, so there's a right tab stop right there, I can double click when I get on it. So I'm going to again put the very tip of my mouse on it. I'm going to see right tab pop up, and I'm going to double left click, and it pops up that tab menu. It's a little tricky though doing it from here, because if you're not right on it and you don't wait for the right tab little pop up to appear, and you think you're on it but you're not, and you double click, look what happened. Yes, you did get the menu pop up, but it added another tab stop. And that might not be what you're trying to do. Typically, that's not what you're trying to do. So, so sometimes that is a little tricky doing that, but just wait for that little pop-up. You got to have a little patience. Wait for that pop-up and you'll see this appear. Now, we're going to talk more about using this to set the tab stops tomorrow, but I'll show you after this when I'm done showing you what we did yesterday. So we started creating a list yesterday of first name, last name, employee ID, and profit share. And then we did the menu, the two choices, and then we did the kind of like the phone book directory. So the first thing we did is we were aligned on the left. The first thing I had you guys do is go change your style. So in your home tab, your styles group, remember we talked about that normal style. So if you remember in the line spacing video, we talked about that extra 8 points of spacing after every single time you enter, and where the heck that's coming from. It's coming based on a blank template based on the normal style template. Okay, so when you open up a blank Word document and you just start creating from there, you're going to be in the normal style. Well, the normal style is based on a Calibri font, 11 points, automatic font color, which is black. It's automatically going to be left aligned. And under here, it's telling you what your line spacing is set at. Multiple 1.08 and spacing after an extra 8 points. So that's where we got that from, the line spacing. I probably should have showed you that in the line spacing video, but I forgot. Anyway, so if you want to change your normal style template based on a blank document, you can make those changes here. And down here, you can say, well, I only want those changes in this document. Or from now on, every time I open a new blank document based on the normal style template, every time I want it to be with the changes that I've made. So whether you want it just this one time or from here on in, those are your options there. Now down here, you have more formatting options. So if I click the drop down on format and go to paragraph, this is where my indents, line spacing, this is all where I can change that and make that stuff automatic. Okay, I'm going to cancel that though. I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to show you that it's easier than modifying the style. Just go to no spacing style. So if I right click on the no spacing style, guess what? There's no extra spacing after. So right now, I'm in the normal style spacing, and if I enter, right, I get this, I get this gap, right? So a little bit of extra spacing. Well, where's the extra spacing coming from, right? So if I come over here and I say, you know what, I want this entire document to be no extra spacing after the paragraph. Boom. So now watch what happens. So now the spacing in between each paragraph just got a lot less. Cool? So I think the first thing to do would be to set your style as a no spacing style. Now you can go in and you can modify that no spacing style also. Right click on it, go to modify, And if you want a little spacing after, then go to format, go to paragraph, and just maybe bump that to 3. 3 space PT. Okay. But so totally up to you. Anyway, I'm going to cancel out. So we're just going to go straight to the no spacing style. And I'm going to start typing in the column heading. So I'm going to create 4 columns. The headings are first name. And before I create the second column, now I could do this and do last name and then and then employee ID and then right? Profit share. But I'm going to set my left tab stop right around the 2-inch mark on the ruler. So over here in your tab stop indicator, I need to switch that to a left tab stop. So I'm going to kind of click through my options here. There it is. It's right there. So it's showing. And now I'm going to come over and I'm going to click right underneath the 2-inch mark on the ruler. Boom. There it is. Now I'm going to tab. So I wait to hit my tab key until I set the tab stop first. Once I set it, I'm good to go. So now when I tab, it doesn't go to 1, 1.5, 2. And you don't see 3 arrows there. You see 1, and it goes straight to the 2-inch mark on the ruler. I'm going to type in last name. This is going to be my last name column. So again, before I hit my tab key, I want my employee ID column to be right aligned. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set a right tab stop. I'm going to put it right at the 4-inch mark on the ruler. Then I'm going to tab. So again, it looks like bookends. This is going to start here and type in from left to right. This is going to start here and type in from right to left. Okay, so that's exactly what I knew it would do. So now I got one more tab stop to create. It's the decimal tab. I'm going to drop it right at the 6-inch mark on the ruler. So before I hit tab, I'm still kind of sitting there after employee ID. My cursor is blinking. I'm going to change that to a decimal tab. And I'm going to come over here right underneath the 6 and left click 1 time to drop it there. Now I'm going to hit my tab key. I'm going to type in profit share. And now it will go from right to left. Yeah, until you hit your decimal. And then it's going to start going left to right. So that is the idea, and I hit the margin, that's why I did that. But the idea is that your decimal in your dollar amounts under your profit share column are always going to align with the decimal tab, which means basically with the 6-inch mark on the ruler. Okay, so because this didn't have any decimals, this was just words, it was just a title, it's all going from right to left, so it's almost acting like a right tab stop. But, all right, so now I'm going to enter, and I'm going to enter one more time. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a space between my titles, and then I'm going to start. So I'm going to enter twice. So I think we started typing in, everybody's name. So you type tab, tab. I think I should get the most. I don't know. And 50 cents. Okay. So again, notice that decimal is lining up with the decimal tab stop. Now I'm going to enter and type Tammy's first name and her last name. So every time I type, when I'm done, I'm going to tab. Tab. Enter. Oops. There. So it doesn't matter. Oops. Okay. Not sure how that happened. Ooh, that was weird. See how that jumped? Oh, no, that was right. Sorry, my bad. Jennifer, I'm going to give you 100 grand because I'm nice like that, and 21 cents. So again, once you get the tab stops set, it's really just a matter of type tab. When you get to the end, just go ahead and enter. So pretty simple, right? Where the heck am I? Okay, whoops. Sorry. Cool. All right, so we spent a little bit of time on this yesterday. The other thing I mentioned was I want to say that one of you guys did something like this, where you were kind of in the middle of the line. Oh no, I think what it was, you eliminated one of the tab stops, or it was a tab stop that wasn't the right tab stop. So if that ever happens, the line that you're on right now, so like right now I'm on the line that says lister's name. So if I enter here, right, which I should have tabbed, but maybe I entered instead. And you can see the enter mark here, and you can see the rest of her information, her employee ID and her profit share is on the next line. All you have to do is you can either come up here to that paragraph symbol and delete. So click on that paragraph symbol and delete, and it kind of comes back, or you can get in front of the next line and backspace and see how it kind of fixed it on its own. Now let's just say I take this right tab stop out completely. Now again, I was only on Listra's record. And so what happens is when I only took it out for that line. So if I go click on all the other lines, it's still there. If I had selected the whole list and then taken it out, then it would be gone for everybody. But it's only gone for Listra right now. So what happened was it went from here, which is where her last name was, to her employee ID all the way over here. Notice her employee ID starts over here now because there is nothing in between. So it skipped where the right tab stop should have been for employee ID, and it went straight over here. Well, after that was the profit share amount, which wrapped to the next line down. Okay. So if that ever happens, just go put that right tab stop back. So I'm back over here, kind of run through the gamut of the different options. There's my right tab stop. I'm going to go drop it back. I'm going to make sure I'm on Lister's line, and I'm going to go back and drop it back on the 4-inch mark on the ruler and watch what happens. So everything kind of just comes back together. Okay. So the only reason our employee ID and our profit share was moved over was because I got rid of that tab stop, and it was going from here to here and putting the employee ID here, and then the profit share, there wasn't enough room for the profit share. So it wrapped when it hit the margin down to the next line. So that's all I had to do is add that back. Okay. So if I wanted to do all of those lines, if I got rid, by mistake, if I got rid of that right tab stop, now look what happened. So all of our names, it skipped the employee ID, right? The right tab stop that was supposed to be there. So our employee ID went from last name all the way to profit share. That's where it's putting the employee ID now. And then the profit share amount didn't have enough room for it, so it wrapped it to another line. So all of our profit share amounts are on a second line. Okay, and that's because I selected all of us and then I removed the right tab stop. So it did it for all the lines. So it just kind of doubled up on the lines. So I could do an undo here, but if you did a bunch of things after that and then realized, then you probably don't want to do an undo. Just go put that right tab stop back and everything comes back to place. That's the thing with Word, you guys. You're going to realize that things kind of jump all over the place, and it gets extremely frustrating to learn to know how to fix it and get it back to the way it was. But that's what I'm here for. Okay, so I'm only going to do a couple, and then what we did, we put that horizontal line in the middle, right, to separate our name list to our choices, our meal choices. So went up here to insert. We went to shapes. In the illustrations group, we went to shapes. And then we chose just that straight line, no arrows, just a straight line. We brought our mouse, we just left clicked on it and brought our mouse back into the page. Our mouse turns into a plus sign. And we're going from margin to margin. We're going to left click hold and drag straight over from margin to margin without going past your margins into the gray area. Cool. It's just a nice little separator. And then we went about 1 inch underneath that line and did a quick double left click. When you do that, it eliminates and gets rid of all of the tab stops that we had up here. Now they're not gone. We're just on a line right now where we have not set the tab stops. If you click back up here in this list, you'll see your tab stops. They're still there. But because we were way down here, we skipped a bunch of lines, and that's kind of our way of telling Word that we're done. We're done with that list. We're done with those tab stops, and now we want to start over. Okay, and so the next thing that we did was we created a choice menu, and this time we used the center tab stop and the bar tab. So before we even start typing anything, I want two meal choices, both in the center of my document. So before I even start typing, where before we started typing immediately over here because that was our first name column, we're already aligned on the left side. There was no need for a left tab stop because we're already left aligned and we're already as far left as we could go. But then the next column, we had to create a left tab stop. Now, one more thing that I think I showed you yesterday, but I didn't show you just now. If you wanted to move this last name column over a little bit, because kind of see how last name and employee ID are close together, I would select the whole list, including the titles, and then go up to that left tab stop at the 2-inch mark on the ruler. That indicates where my last name column is. Find it, let that little left tab thing pop up, left click hold, and drag it. Yeah, I guess 1.5 would be good. And boom, it takes the whole column. If I was only on the title row and I went to move it, see how it's only moving that one row, the last name in that one row. It's real tricky, so you got something you got to get used to. All right, but when I come down here, all my tab stops are eliminated. So I want to create 2 center tab stops at the 2-inch mark and the 4-inch mark on the ruler. So first thing I got to do is come over here, switch that to my center tab stop. It's the upside down T without the dot. So there you go. So now that I'm seeing that there, when I go tap underneath the 2-inch mark on the ruler, it's going to drop a center tab stop there. And again, the 4-inch mark on the ruler, it's going to drop one there too. So now I'm good to go. So instead of starting to type now, I'm just going to hit tab first. Then we did choice number 1. I hit tab again. It's going to bring me over to the 4-inch mark on the ruler. Choice number 2. I'm done with that line. Enter, tab. So now I'm underneath choice 1, still center aligned, but center aligned underneath the center tab stop. So now choice number 1, I forget, I think this was maybe the family we like, is the choice number 1. So for an appetizer, they're going to get scallops in bacon. Choice number 2, cheese whiz. Oh, I think it was an H. Somebody said it was with an H. Cheese whiz and crackers. Okay. So the center part, if you bring your mouse over the middle, and you can kind of eye it out to see, the middle of that line that says scallops and bacon, you follow that straight up. That should be directly aligned with that center tab stop. And if you go up to that center tab stop at the 2-inch mark on the ruler, wait for the little pop-up, and then left click one time and hold it, you can clearly see where the middle of that sentence is. And so that's the idea, is no matter how many characters you're typing, everything is always going to remain centered around that center tab stop. That's the idea. Same thing with cheese whiz and crackers. And even though cheese whiz and crackers is a little bit longer, that, my friends, is the middle point of that statement, of that sentence. Okay? So now I'm done with my cheese and crackers. And I'm going to enter. And I'm going to tab. And choice number 1 is going to get, for a meal, I think we said beef Wellington. Choice number 2 is P, B, and J. Enter. Tab. Choice number 1 for dessert is getting baked Alaska. Choice number 2 is getting lime jello, which I think I was the only one that lime jello was my favorite. Anyway, enter, tab. I think we talked about, you know, passing drinks and stuff, right? So champagne and strawberries. And choice number 2 gets Kool-Aid. Cool? All right. So if I bring that up just underneath the ruler, it looks a little off-centered if you look at the page, right? So it looks like I might not have gone far enough over on the second column because there's a lot more extra, well, not a lot, but there's more extra space over here on the right side than there is the left side. So I should probably move that second column. Do you need me? Okay. So to do that, if I'm going to move the whole second column over, I need to make sure that I select the whole list. Because if I'm just clicked on the Kool-Aid over here and I go to try to move it, watch what happens, right? It's only moving the Kool-Aid. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Anyway, so I'm going to select the entire menu from the title all the way down to the drinks. Now I'm going to go move that center tab stop that right now is at the 4-inch mark on the ruler. I'm going to drag that over to about the 4.5-inch mark and see how that looks. And I can click off it to see. And yeah, definitely looks a little better visually. Yeah, I'm cool with that. So the other thing we did, we talked about the bar tab and kind of putting that line in between, like a little separator kind of line right between my menu. Now, if I start way up here and I start selecting the 2 paragraph symbols above my titles, when I go to set my bar tab, watch what's going to happen. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to change this to a bar tab. It just looks like a straight vertical little teeny line is all a bar tab looks. Okay. So now that I'm seeing that, I'm going to go set it at, I don't know, maybe the second dot after the 3-inch mark on the ruler. Boom. So I do that and look what happened. Turn off my show hide so you can see it. Looks a little weird, right? That line is going way further past the titles. Probably doesn't need to be so long. But the reason why is because I selected these 2 paragraphs when I set the bar tab. So that's why it's going up that far. So I will undo that. Okay. And instead, again, I'm just going to choose from choice 1 down to my champagne and strawberries and Kool-Aid. Now I'm going to go set that bar tab in the same spot. Watch what happens. I'll turn off the show hide so you can see it without the arrows. Cool? Right? Now, I'm going to undo that real quick. I'm going to enter once after Kool-Aid. So I'm going to select from the titles, but I'm also going to select that paragraph symbol after the line that has the Kool-Aid and the champagne and strawberries. And I'll go set it again, that bar tab. Again, watch what happens. It's going to go further down past because I grabbed that paragraph symbol. So it's very important what you're selecting. Oops. What you're selecting when you go to set your tab stops. Okay. You want to make sure that you're selecting just exactly what you want when you're setting your tab stop. Cool. And when I turn off my show hide, oh, it just looks so good. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to take all of the items and decrease the line spacing in between? Okay. So if you look up here, there's not as much line spacing as there is between my menu items. So I will start with my appetizers and go down to the drinks because I do want that extra spacing between the title and the first item, but not between all the items. So again, same thing, line spacing is line spacing. So whether you're, got some tab stops in there or what, doesn't really matter. So now I'm going to select that list, go up to my line spacing and see where it says remove space after. Oh. So it removed the space after everything I selected, but it left the space after the choice 1 and 2 line because I did not select that when I changed my line spacing. Cool beans? Cool beans. Okay, so that horizontal line that we drew earlier, get your mouse on it. Going to turn into a 4-headed arrow. When it does, left click 1 time, and that's going to select the line, and you know it's selected because you can see the dots on either end. Then you're going to make sure you're still seeing your 4-headed arrow. Control D. D as in duplicate. So you just basically duplicated that object that you inserted before. And so now we're going to take that second line, and we're just going to find your 4-headed arrow. When you find it, left click hold and drag that object down underneath your menu items. So I'll show you guys that again. Find your 4-headed arrow on that second line. When you see it, left click hold and just drag it down. When you get it to the spot you want, let go. If you do this, if you go to insert that line again, sorry, and you click it, instead of left clicking, holding, and dragging, you just left click and let go. What's going to happen is it's just going to drop a line that looks like that. It's going to kind of have a mind of its own. And so if that happens, don't panic. What you can do is you can grab one of the dots. So when you hover your mouse over any one of the dots, it turns into a double-headed arrow, like a diagonal arrow. And that is resize. So I would say get on the right side, left click hold, and then turns into that plus sign again, where you can just kind of, and then I'll come back over here and drag that a little further out. So don't panic. You can always fix it by just kind of stretching it back out again by grabbing one of those sides. Cool beans? All right. Then you're going to go about 1 inch underneath that line, and you're going to double left click. And again, it's going to give you some room, and you're going to eliminate all of the tab stops that you had in this section. They're not gone. It's just that you're selected down here on this blank line, and you didn't set any tab stops yet here. But up here, if you click back into your list, they're still there. If you eliminated from here, this menu would be all whacked out. Like it'd be all over the place, and it wouldn't be set the way you had originally done it. Same thing up here, your tab stops. So you got to click somewhere in that section to kind of see those tab stops that we set from before. Okay, so underneath that second horizontal line, you're going to double click. It's going to eliminate all your tab stops. So now we're starting from scratch again. And this is where we did the last name, comma, first name. And then we hit the right tab stop and we went all the way over to the right, typed in our phone number. And then I showed you how to add the leader to it, the ... So type your last name, comma, your first name, whoops, and then stay there. Now, the next thing that we do is we go set the tab stop. So I want a right tab stop, and I want it on top of the right indent marker, but I can't drop it there first. I have to drop it a little bit before that, and then left click hold and drag it on top. So first thing we got to do, go change your tab stop to a right tab stop. It's a backwards L. And go drop it somewhere after the 6, doesn't matter where. And then once you drop it, left click on the ruler and it drops, go back to that right tab stop, wait for the pop-up to tell you you're on the right tab, left click hold, and drag it on top of that right indent marker. Now you are ready to hit your tab key. And bada bing, bada boom, it's going to go over to the right side. You're going to type in your number with dots, right? So we don't age ourselves. And how do I get that leader on there? Well, I got to go back to that tab stop menu, right? So I showed you at the beginning of the video where to get to it. So one of the ways is to get on that tab stop, wait for the pop-up, and double left click. But if that's tricky and you move your mouse as you're double left clicking, you might not get this menu. And then sometimes you find you added another tab stop by mistake. Just left click on it, hold it, drag it down and off the ruler and let go if that happens. So a better way might be to go to the Home tab, the paragraph group, and the paragraph dialog box launcher. Left click on that, and in that paragraph menu, come down to the bottom left corner and click on tabs. So when you do that, it's telling you the only tab stop position that you have on this paragraph is at the 6.5 inch mark on the ruler. Yep, that's right. It's exactly where it is. Okay. And it's telling you the alignment of that tab is a right aligned tab stop. Yep, that is true. Now, the only other thing we don't have is the leader. So it is set by default to have no leader. But I do want a leader on this one. I want the 2. So it's the ... But notice the 3 gives you dash, and 4 gives you the underscore. Okay, so I mean, you can pick any one that you want, but the 2 in this case works better here. So once you click on the leader that you want, you got to set it. So click that little set button and then click OK. And there it is. So that is something that will print. If I were to enter and hit my space bar, right, you get kind of the same dots. However, if I turn off my show hide, those don't show because that's where I hit my space bar. The leader actually will print. Okay, so try not to get confused with the difference between the two. One is tapping on your space bar and the other one is actually creating the leader so you can have it show. Okay, so easy enough, right? Now, I typed in Michael's name, and my right tab stop is still there. I don't have to set it again because it remembers. When I enter down a bunch of lines, this is your way of telling Word you're done with this section up here, and to kind of revamp your tab stops, take them out because I want to start over. In this case, I can keep entering that right tab stop will still be there. So it's kind of nice. And Oop. Cool. And that's pretty much what we did yesterday. The one thing we did do at the very end of the class was we added the page border. So when I was showing you my copy of the tab stops, we added a nice kind of border art around the border of the whole page. So that is in the design tab, all the way over to the right in the page borders. And in that, we went straight to art border or border art. And we just picked something from there. There's a ton of them. You can pick whatever you want. I think I did these little hearts on a string. I don't know. You can change the width. So if you want smaller and skinnier, you can kind of width down or width up. Some of these border arts, you can change the color. On me, for the one I chose, I can't. Trying to click that drop down where it says color and it's not letting me. So it's just something I can't do. But some of them you can change the color. And I'm applying it to the whole document. So if I had 1 page or 10 pages, that border art would be around every single page. And I click OK. Cool beans. So if I go do a print preview, oh, it's just art in motion right there. Art in motion. All right, so I think that's it. Now, if you wanted to have your titles bold and bigger, you would come over, select just the title, go home, make it bold, maybe make the font a little bit bigger. You know, same thing with choice 1 and 2, make it bold, maybe make it a little bit bigger. So the formatting doesn't change even when they're in a tab stop. And I think that's it. We will continue the tab stops tomorrow too. So thank you for your attention. Have a good day.